thank you for coming. I'm Denise Merrill, Secretary of the State of Connecticut. And I want to first of all thank Representative Chris Rosario, the chair of the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, and Representative Hilda Santiago, who are both here today, to help me put this event together. And I want to thank all the community groups that have been participating in this effort, which we'll talk about in a minute, including the Hispanic Coalition, Hartford Votes, the CREC Relief Center, the San Juan Center, the Connecticut Puerto Rican Agenda, the Center for Latino Progress, Casa Boricua de Meriden, Make the Road Connecticut, and many others. First, I want to say Puerto Rican families are and have always been an important part of our Connecticut community and family. After the devastation of Hurricane Maria, we're happy to welcome our new neighbors who have moved here from Puerto Rico. At the Secretary of State's office, we are committed to welcoming these families into the civic life of their new communities by registering them to vote. We believe this is an important part of being part of a community. These families, U.S. citizens, do not lose their right to vote just because they lost their homes to a devastating natural disaster. And I know we have all heard the horrible stories about conditions in Puerto Rico that led them to move here to our state. In fact, by registering to vote in Connecticut, these families will now be able to vote not only in local elections, as they are in Puerto Rico, but also in federal elections, and will have more of a say in public affairs, including how the federal government helps the island of Puerto Rico. We all know there's been much discussion about how much more needs to be done. Our democracy is strongest when voter participation is highest, when everyone is registered and voting. And one thing we've learned about voter participation and civic participation is people are more likely to get involved when they're asked. It sounds very simple, but it is very profound. That's what we're doing today. We're asking these families in. Our office, along with the legislators behind me and the community groups represented here, will be reaching out to ask these families to register to vote. My office, the Secretary of State's office, will facilitate the voter registration drive by doing the following. We're going to work with legislators, local governments, and community groups active in helping newly arrived Puerto Rican families in Connecticut. We will identify and register eligible voters, and as we all know, eligible voters are those who are 18 and citizens, which would include most of these Puerto Rican families. And sending staff to events and gatherings of newly arrived families to help register voters, and providing training for these community organizers to register voters as they provide services to affected families. We think this is a critically important piece of welcoming these folks here to our state, where they frequently have family that are also participating in the life of the community. So we are very pleased to be here with all our partners in this effort today. So I want to thank everyone who's participating, the many community groups who are already reaching many of these families in the various towns and cities in the state, for participating in this effort with me, and to ensure that Puerto Rican families coming here because of Hurricane Maria are welcome into all aspects of our Connecticut community, including our civic life. So now I'd like to introduce Representative Chris Rosario, Chair of the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus. Chris.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I want to thank all my partners behind me here, and also our Secretary of State, Denise Merrill. Back in 1978, my parents came here from Puerto Rico to Connecticut, and were embraced with open and welcome arms, not under the duress of a hurricane, but for another opportunity to move ahead in life. With that being said, it is an honor for me to be here to pay it forward to those families that came or are here or are going to come from Puerto Rico to be welcome and embraced here in the state of Connecticut. Civic participation is very important in Puerto Rico. It's the turnout rate for elections, I believe it's hovers around 95%. So as those families come here to the state of Connecticut and get acclimated, and many who I've talked to are living in Bridgeport and throughout the state, they feel welcome here. They want to be a part of the state. And for them to have a participation in the civic engagement is important. Once they become residents here, they have a voice in every matter of life. It's a big fabric, the state of Connecticut, and they're just going to be one big piece of making us great, a great state and great cities and great communities. Once again, I want to thank Secretary of State Denise Merrill and her entire staff for all the work that they've done. And this is going to be the beginning. We're going to have more information as we go forward, and getting not only folks from Puerto Rico but also the Virgin Islands involved as well to register to vote. At this time, I'm going to have Representative Hilda Santiago come up and say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary of State Denise Merrill, for putting this together. I think it's important for civic engagement. While these families are picking up the pieces of their lives once they get here, and they've been coming here since September, October, and all through the holidays, we need to encourage them to make sure that they come out to vote and that they register to vote. Like Representative Rosario said, 95% of the island does vote. They carry around a voter card. So when they came here, they had a voter card for an ID. They're very proud of making sure that they participate in the elections. Stores close down, businesses close down. It's almost like a holiday because the people of Puerto Rico, the citizens, take voting very seriously. What happens here is that we have to engage them. We have to make sure that when they come here, when they go to vote, everything, of course, is in English and Spanish. We want to make sure that they feel comfortable, they trust the system, they don't get intimidated. So we need to make sure, hopefully with the Secretary of State's help, that a lot of these precincts around the state has a Spanish speaker. I know that in the city of Meriden, it took us a while to get a Spanish speaker in every precinct, but we held accountable both parties to make sure that they had a Spanish speaker in each precinct to help anybody that didn't understand how to vote. So, and that's very important. You need to make people comfortable, you need for them to trust the system, and you need for them to come out to vote. There's going to be a lot of events this summer, and a lot of Puerto Rican festivals, all kind of festivals, because we attend all of them. I know I do. And we need to make sure that the Secretary of State's office is present at all these festivals. And that help is going to be coming from the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, from the Spanish speaking agencies. They also will be helping. And we just need to make sure that people come out to vote and they do their civic duty. And we want to make sure that we empower them. But I also want, and thank you for putting this press conference together. We have a lot of work to do, and this will move forward all through the summer. But I also want to mention that we also have Jason Ortiz here from the National Puerto Rican Forum, who's going to say a couple of words. Fernando Bentacul, who is the Executive Director of San Juan Center. We also have Representative Sanchez and Representative Reyes, and they're also going to say a couple of words. So thank you, Denise, for all that you're doing and getting us together, and we're going to make sure that this voting registration drive works, especially for the Puerto Ricans that are coming from the island, and USVI. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jason Ortiz, and I am the president of the Connecticut Puerto Rican Agenda. I'd like to say thank you to the Secretary of State, Denise Merrill, for hosting this press conference, but also to remind folks that there are already 250,000 Puerto Ricans in Connecticut, and that makes up nearly 10% of the population of Connecticut. So those families that are coming over here are joining families that have been participating in our elections for a while, but some of the terms mean very different things. So for instance, being an independent here in Connecticut is a very different thing than it is being for independent on the island, right? So we need to make sure that we're educating folks on what the different terms mean and getting families that are currently here involved, as well as the new families that are coming here. Because the reality is elections very much do matter to Puerto Rican families. If we see the treatment we've received from the federal government, it's clear that, you know, elections matter and will affect folks both on the island and here. And so it's not just the folks that are coming, it's also the 250,000 Puerto Ricans that currently reside here, that there is no way anyone is going to make it to the governor's office or any statewide election without going through the Puerto Rican community here in Connecticut. And so I want to make sure that every single one of those folks is involved and participating in this, in whatever party they choose to participate. But it is clear that this particular election is one that the Puerto Rican community can have a huge impact and will have a huge impact on, as long as we have the support and training from the folks that are currently here to help encourage participation. And so I definitely welcome the support when it comes to training new organizers. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of new young people that have arrived in the state of Connecticut that want to get involved, that want to participate in our elections, and we will definitely be sending as many of those folks as possible to get trained on how to be effective organizers here in Connecticut. So I think we can take this opportunity presented by the Secretary of State and others to really mobilize and modernize the Puerto Rican community's ability to organize and affect elections. And so I look forward to helping as many people do that as possible and working with our partners here to continue it. And then I also look forward to, you know, some impressive results come November. So thank you all for being here, and I look forward to showing you how powerful the Puerto Rican community can be. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, first of all, to Madam Secretary Merrill for the invitation, the honorable members of the legislature that are here, and the community partner. My name is Fernando Betancourt. I'm the Executive Director for the San Juan Center, which is the oldest Latino nonprofit organization in the state. I bring a different message because we represent the nonprofit organizations. We're going to join this campaign with Secretary Merrill because it is extremely important not only to participate and vote, but also to bring citizens to the fabric of civic engagement. We have the San Juan Center, a campaign that is now on TV for a full year, supported by the Hartford Foundation. And the point here is, we not only vote. If you look at the trends of the last 20 years, Latinos and particularly Puerto Ricans are deciding through the electoral system, particularly the Electoral College, the next elections. And because we are nonprofit, we cannot get into the politics, partisan politics, but I'm telling you, the message is we're going to organize, we're going to enroll these people to vote, and at the end of the day, we remember that it's not throwing paper towels to help the Latino and Puerto Rican population of the state. Thank you.
Good morning. State Representative Bobby Sanchez from New Britain. I know Representative Santiago had touched up a little bit about engaging the Puerto Rican population here in the state of Connecticut and New Britain. We have been doing it now for a number of years, engaging them every year and going out to register Latino voters. And I just, you know, I have to recall that in 1978, when I was in Puerto Rico, I lived there for a year, and I took part of my uncle's campaign, because my uncle was a mayor of Rincon, Puerto Rico, which is in the west coast of Puerto Rico. And I couldn't believe how people go out and vote in numbers on the island. And it's true. Too bad we can't close things down and make it a holiday, because, I mean, let me tell you, we would get a lot more people out there to vote. But in Puerto Rico, they do close everything down on Election Day, and people come out and vote for mayor, for state rep, for senator, and for governor, all at the same time. And it brings out over 95% of the population to vote, which is great. And I think that's something that we can learn here in the United States if we did something similar to that. So I'm going to continue to engage the Latino community in New Britain and continue to register them, and even go out throughout the state of Connecticut and help my colleagues to register voters as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks to Madam Secretary Denise Merrill and my esteemed colleagues, and both in the legislation and the nonprofits. I'll be brief. I am Geraldo Reyes, State Representative from the City of Waterbury. Waterbury has seen probably the second amount in percentage and numbers in students and families, and we have been dealing with a tremendous amount of influx of people. So we have firsthand knowledge of all the good, the bad, and the ugly. We've been dealing with it, And what I want to say is that we have taken this on, and you talk about an unfunded mandate. We've been taking this on as an unfunded mandate. We're not complaining. And I believe, and I told Madam Secretary this morning, the state of Connecticut has done a tremendous job embracing and receiving our American citizens from Puerto Rico. I have been working with my esteemed colleagues here on many different projects. Tonight I'm on a plane going back to Puerto Rico. We have more to do there, and I will be back for the opening session. But what's really important here is that I really want the people of Connecticut to know that through your generosity and your effort and your donations, you have made a comfortable welcoming for many Puerto Rican families that are still here. And I thank you for that, and I thank Denise Merrill for the push for voter registration, and Waterbury's all in. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and I can't resist a shout out to those people on my staff who have been making efforts to register new voters for many years, including Lourdes Montalvo, who is here. For many years, she's worked in the community to bring people into civic life. And I will dedicate the resources of my office to this effort and work with those in the community who already are contacting these families to play our part in bringing them into the life of Connecticut. So thank you very much for being here.